Welcome everybody to our Wednesday finance meeting. These have been long-standing and generally are opportunities to discuss county's financial situation. Today we're here to talk about lifting the restrictions that were put in place in order for us to better and more effectively manage our cash situation in light of record or near record state budget impacts. If people recall, when it became apparent that the budget impasse was going to be of significant duration, there were meetings planned with the Human Services and Finance departments to discuss how we could develop a strategy to manage our cash position effectively in order to continue providing services, avoid any excess debt, and minimize the impact on both our clients, consumers, and on the county's own financial situation. As a result, a number of measures were enacted and proposed to the Board of Commissioners and approved by the Board of Commissioners. And they approved a pretty systematic approach by the Human Services departments to delay payments to providers who were willing and able to withstand a delay in receiving payments while continuing to fund those generally smaller providers with less diverse revenue streams so that they could maintain service levels to those people that are served by our Human Services Department. They also include a number of internal controls or restrictions such as no non-essential travel, not filling essential vacancies, holding off on any capital projects, and a number of other measures. Those measures, even as the budget impasse continued, proved to be sufficient. And, thank goodness, the budget pass has been, for the most part, resolved at this point, or at least enough to unencumber the funding streams needed for human services. We have again met to discuss whether or not we were confident enough in our financial situation and in the anticipation of funding from the state to lift that, and we are here to provide you a more detailed account of where we are. Before I do introductions, I'd just like to say what we're going to do is that our folks from finance will start off with a general overview. We'll go around to each of the Human Services departments. We'll talk about specifically when and how they are situated in terms of the release of funding by the state government. And then we're going to go back to our finance folks to talk about some lingering issues that may come up as a result of the line item return process. And at the end of this, the commissioners, if you feel appropriate, may decide to take the official action needed to lift those requirements. And if more time or more consideration is needed, so be it, and we can always put it on an upcoming workshop and or commissioners meeting. So why don't we, with that said, we have a brand new commissioner with us. So maybe we can start with the introduction of our Board of Commissioners.
Jim Burson.
Vince DiFilippo. Here we go.
Gary.
Okay. And you all know me, so I'm going to start over here.
Nikki McElwee, children. Lisa Ryder, children.
Sue Carvall, IDD and early intervention.
Linda McCullough, MH, IDD, and early intervention fiscal.
Sylvia Herman, MH.
Ryan Simon, organical.
Ron Snow, finance. David Best, finance.
Okay. So Dana and Ron, why don't you kick us off?
Currently, we have a cash balance of $22 million. Yeah. That's not including the other funds. When the budget and capital were faced at looking at different measures, our original projection was meeting a tax anticipation note in January. With these implemented measures, if impasse would have continued. We are confident that we could have made it through the end of March without needing a tax anticipation note, and then our tax revenues started coming in. So we would have been okay through the end of the first half of the year. With that being said, we currently have about $2.5 million on hold in the controller's office that the payments have been held. As things have happened, we've been booking them, putting them on our financials, but queuing them up so that they're ready to go once the budget is passed. The different funds had different things, but it's a combination of our service providers, employee reimbursements. Of course, the position holds are queued up, but they're an important part of what has helped us continue with our cash balance. So with that being said, we currently have the $22 million in our fund. We're expecting within 4 to 7 days, everything that the state had already queued up to be sent to the county, and then 15 days for all of the other things to be queued up. I'll talk to you about the line and vetoes then at the end, so.
Ron, anything you would like to add? Any questions for finance before we get into the individual departments? Okay, thanks. Ryan, why don't we start with you?
Just over the lunch hour, there was a conference call between the State Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs and local SCAs, and they were talking about when they expect the checks to be going out. One SCA said that they received their funds this morning. So it looks like it's starting to work through and getting close to the front of the queue to get our checks sent out as well. But DDAP does not know exactly when. Everybody's checks are going to be going out, and they expect it to be soon.
Sylvia? Oh, Jack may be late, but you may have some wisdom to impart.
Yeah,
No,
that's Jack.
I was fully prepared to present our scenario.
Well, MHIDEI, all those departments, we have received our money. It's in the account for first and second quarter, and received notification yesterday that third quarter funds are being prepared. We also, MH received their allocation letter this morning, so.
We received our payment letter this morning.
Our payment letter this morning, yeah. And it said that they're getting ready for the allocation letter and for third quarter payments. So money's in the bank.
Almost 7.2 million.
Yeah.
Could you just, for the sake of clarity, allocation letter, appropriation letter? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
we did not get our allocation letter yet. That will be how much, but they will allocate to us for the, in the department for the fiscal year. That has not come. They based our payment off of our 14-15 primary allocation. I'm sorry, I did so many years in my head that I, the 14-15 primary allocation. But we still, MH is the only one that we know where each of the where all the funding would fall. We still don't know that for IDD or EI. We have not gotten that, but we've already put the money into the account, so.
And just so, especially for commission, our year starts July 1. So this is actually our third quarter for human services.
Okay. Sue, do you have anything to add?
I'll think that what's already been said.
CYS?
Children and Youth has not received our money yet. I checked my mailbox before we walked up. Usually it comes as a paper check, so hopefully in the afternoon mail. Today would be the 4th business day. They said 4 to 7 days. We're due almost 6.8 million to be caught up. And and they based it off our tentative allocation letter, so we haven't received ours yet. We should be receiving it within probably 2 weeks.
Paper check.
Well, yeah. they still
Tough
send
week.
The check's in the
Is it
mail.
all, is it all for one big amount, or is it a series of?
There'll be a series, one will be $2.6 million check.
All right.
Yeah, we are expecting 2 of those.
Maybe you'd like that in 20s?
Yeah.
Maybe we could go just background quickly, and particularly for Commissioner DeFilippo's benefit. we had to really leverage our partnerships with our providers. And I know that when we found out and got about our, that we would be in a position to possibly, once officially done, lift the restrictions, we were fast out of the gate communicating with our providers. Maybe just quick go around and talk about the experience and where we stand with our providers. Do we have any lingering issues? Is there any, did any evaporation occur in the funding that we have that would, put any providers and the services and their clients in any kind of, at any kind of risk? So,
For drug and alcohol, and this is similar for mental health, so I talked about a big advantage that we had was that most of our providers are also health choices medical assistance providers, and that funding is never interrupted. In fact, they receive more of their funding, particularly for drug and alcohol, from the health choices program or from private insurance. So none of them are really overly dependent upon our funding. There's one exception, and that's our prevention provider, Premium Services. So they've been able to weather this fiscal crisis fairly well, because the health choices money was still flowing, and we haven't suffered any loss of providers. With MH, some of that's true, but I know that there's some base services that are only funded through your office.
For mental health, actually, treatment services are funded as a part of health choices for those individuals who have medical assistance. County-based dollars, MH-based dollars funds the bulk of services and supports residential programs, social rehab, psych rehab, about 2/3 of crisis intervention services, and also funds treatment services for individuals who don't have any insurances that cover that and are not medical assistance eligible. So we had 5 providers who are large providers and have other streams of revenue. A lot of medical assistance, a lot of private insurance, but the bulk of our providers have no, in mental health, no stream of revenue without county-based funds. So we had 5 providers who continue to provide services without funding. For the 6 months, that came to about $1.5 million. And, but they've been excellent partners, and but are certainly eager to receive payment for their 6 months of services with no payment. We've not had any providers cut back, decrease, go out of business, any of those kinds of things.
So are they going to be made whole all at once, or is it installments, or?
As I understand the plan, is it's all at once.
Because as Dana was saying, things aren't queued up in the system.
Right, we're ready.
Because those things actually had to be entered into the system for accounting purposes as they were incurred.
Right.
So they are queued up, ready to go, and once there's funds for that,
Checks can be cut.
I guess my question is, with the governor's action, and I didn't have, other than what I read in the newspaper, I haven't had a chance to dig into it to see exactly what all he blew on and so forth. But, when you read in the newspaper that the state budget is, the supposed framework, the deal that was reached was, I think, $30.8 billion, and they were like $500 million apart, I think, from what they ended up presenting the governor, $500 million apart from what they ended up presenting the governor with. And then he approved something around $20 billion. I think what we're talking about there is just the state general fund. In fact, when you look at this is a long way to get to my question. When you look at the total state budget, which includes federal funds, it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 or $60 billion. So my question is, with what the governor has done now, and the action that's been taken by the General Assembly, in other words, what has now been signed into law, did that include all federal funding?
It includes, for mental health, it includes all the federal and state money that we get on a yearly, yeah. through our allocation. That's our total, this includes this
And of course,
includes
a
the
large
mental health
part-
allocation,
Yeah, I mean, a large part of the funding for human services.
federal and state.
is, a significant part is from the federal government. We talked about medical assistance, right?
Medical assistance, yes. That never stopped.
That never stopped.
Medical assistance continued to flow. That was one of the reasons why like Holy Spirit Hospital, which is a large treatment provider, could continue to provide services without our base dollars coming into it because they draw down significant amounts of Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. So our contract with Holy is typically about 1.6, 1.7 million a year, but compared to all their other revenue streams,
Well, I thought
That's
part
not a lot of
of the,
money.
maybe somebody can explain this now, because I thought part of the issue was that some federal funds, were not flowing to the counties.
I can take that.
Some were not
So, right.
Some were not going,
The mandates, I'll call them mandates, continue to flow to the counties and to the providers. That would be your medical assistance. There was a carve out in the law that says they have to continue. Federal funding that didn't continue was a small amount in comparison to that. It's the things like the fuels allocations, PCCD allocations, victim witness allocations. So it's a smaller subset of the federal allocations that stopped.
our federal block grant funding for drug and alcohol was stopped. And now that we're flowing in with the action.
So, in other words, all the federal fundings as a result of the governor's action legislation are now flowing.
That's my
All the federal-
understanding.
That's our understanding.
And in terms of then the state funding for the counties, how much of that has been, how much of it still remains to be acted upon is my question.
I'm going to turn to Ryan because he was able to participate in the conference call. Is there any clarity given on Act 152 and PCCD funds?
No. The money that we received from DAP, the Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, that was not blue line, so that was going through. But some of the money we received from OMSOS, which is in the Department of Health, it is uncertain as to when exactly that's going to flow. Apparently they're in there messing around, trying to figure out exactly who they should be funding and how much, and so that's still a big question mark. But for us, the funding that remains in question is about $300,000.
It's a minority of our funding. It was mentioned, I think at the department meeting, the PCCD was blue line. And we do receive some money for intermediate punishment programming, drug and alcohol treatment for folks. And there's a portion of money that we're still not going to be receiving, but it won't hammer us to any degree like we've been here.
I thought some of the questions are regarding the flow of federal funding pertaining specifically to aging, and we don't want to be from aging here, right? I'm a little disappointed with that, but does anybody have knowledge on that?
Terry seemed, at the last time we spoke, Terry and his finance people seemed to think that they were in very good shape. They were in pretty good shape even before this started, in terms of having been able to get extra money out of the state that right before this spigot got turned off, that had been put in the queue. So I think of all the departments, they were probably in the best position at the beginning and probably remain in a slightly better position than everybody else.
And I think, most of the aging's money, I believe was flowing anyway, and it was coming from, because it's the lottery fund, primarily, the state lottery fund. That's where they get most of the money. They get a little bit from the federal government, but I think most of it comes from the lottery fund. But in any event, okay. So I guess my question is, I know that what they ended up sending to the governor, did not include what he had proposed in terms of beginning to restore some of that $85 million that had been cut a number of years ago from human services. So we know that essentially we're flat funded under the current budget, but at least the money's flowing, right? So that's where we are.
Isn't it interesting how happy we can be to be flat funded? What needed 7 months to be flat funded already.
One could almost think that that is a very persuasive approach to implementing budget cuts. We're not restoring.
Or less than that.
Children and youth, any
Yeah,
any casualties on the provider front?
None. We paused on 5 of our largest providers, but we were paying them every 60 days. And again, much like my peers here, they're larger companies that are outside of Pennsylvania, so they have money flowing. And I spoke to them yesterday or Monday, and everyone obviously is ecstatic to start getting paid. And we had no problem, no disruption in any of our placements, nothing. Thanked me for calling on the front end to even ask and to set the delay, and thanked me for calling to say we were now going to be releasing money to them, so.
But we're still under this current scenario until they figure out whether they're going to accept it or not. We're looking at, or whether there's going to be any change. We're still looking at missing our fourth quarter payment in the fiscal year for children and youth, right? Under this rebalancing.
The rebalancing.
Yeah.
That is still in there. I have a meeting on January 20th with all the other administrators and Kathy Utz, and to discuss how we're going to have to prepare for this rebalancing piece.
Which could cause some cash flow issues.
It could, because it would be looking at prior fiscal years, and as we all know, 2015 for us was big because of the law change, the 22 law changes. So it's not going to take into account all of that has happened to us. So we have a planning meeting January 20th to really try to figure out how all of us together are going to look at this for preparing for my next budget.
And really, really quickly, the law changes. Can you give us just 25 words or less?
About them? 25
Where they came from and the impact.
Well, they were obviously come out of the Sandusky and the task force that was built to really look at it. They were obviously needing update. These were laws that were very, very old and needed some updating, but they were passed and implemented extremely quickly. And the way children and youth works, we are on a 2-year needs-based budget, so we're always projecting to the future. So these took effect prior to us ever being able to really write it into our budget and do a lot of preparation. And if you remember, the state told us to prepare for a 5% increase, and we actually had a 37% increase. So it's been impactful. In referrals, all of our initial referrals. So it's been, continues to be impactful to us that we're going to have to keep working on. So this coming year's fiscal budget will be interesting. See, interesting, we just got one passed, and now I'm preparing to write the next one.
Yeah. Well, and I think, essentially this is an accounting gimmick that the legislature is using by pushing our fourth quarter payment into the next fiscal year. It makes it look as though they have $170 million more to spend, right? And then it's another one of the borrow from Peter to pay Paul scenarios, which is unfortunate. And, it could create some significant problems for the counties in the next fiscal year. So,
The state will pay us our fourth quarter. It's if we're in overmatch, is what the rebalancing does. But then we can always appeal it.
Thank you. Dana, maybe you want to go into the, I know we touched on some of this stuff with the line item vetoes, but clearly, while this puts us in a good position, and just to clarify, as this money comes in, money that the county's general fund fronted is being reimbursed back to the general fund to bring us back to something close to what our balance would have been had this not happened. Okay, so go ahead.
So because of the line item vetoes, we still don't know everything that's either on hold or cut. So we will have some lingering delays, but they are not nearly as impactful as the other items. And they're going to be more discretionary type funding is my first look at it. But the potential of liquid fuels state funding being one of the ones we may have to look at eventually. PCCB is the other piece of it that I believe the whole budget was vetoed for what it appears. So I didn't. It's really hard to tell in their line item vetoes what the detail behind it is. So we will keep watching over time to see what funding is still being held or not approved, and if we may have to come back at some point and ask for some delays in part, not nearly as restrictive as this. But I'm not seeing huge delays. It could impact a new program that is trying to be addressed, or a program that's existing. If they have turnover, we may ask that we don't fill the position right away.
So jump ahead just a bit. From what you're saying, does that mean we may want to consider a partial lifting of the restrictions, or, and I'm sure you're going to answer this in top order, is that something we can revisit based on the new information that
I
comes
would
in?
recommend lifting it completely,
Okay.
and then revisiting it if we see a problem in a specific area.
Because we've had vacancies put on hold from the Commissioner's Office, the Thonotary, not really the DA's office, CYS, MHIBD. I think, for PCCD, as Jack and Ryan said, there's some things on the margin for Rebecca Finke's operation, and for some of the district attorney stuff, it may be more substantive. But I think, generally speaking, those items put at risk things that currently are not under suspension. Any final comments or questions?
So, I think in the beginning you indicated that there's $2.4 million worth of payments that are now going to be, or would be, we'd make now if we lifted the restrictions.
Correct.
Okay.
And then they're geared up for the January 22nd if you approve lifting the restriction.
Okay. And then what does that do then to the fund balance? It keeps it at 22 million or what?
Our fund balance and our cash balance are two different
Okay.
items. What's happening now is we have, I'll pick on NJD. They have a balance of warrants payable on employees that have already been paid and things like that. So we'll immediately, on Friday, we'll be removing the monies for that already. So that's gonna boost our fund balance. But the monies that are sitting in that queue that have not been paid,
Mhm.
until we pay them, we can't pull that money back from NHIP. So right now, they're sitting on a $7 million fund or cash balance in their cash account. Until we release their funds, we can't pull that into the general fund. So it'll be a wash in the general fund. That was my old way of saying it's a wash.
Thank you.
You get paid by the month.
Yeah.
One last question, and I guess it's for everybody, but one of the discussion points we had here when this was rolling out was the possibility of there being additional costs accrued simply because of disruption. And so do we foresee any costs that are not already taken care of that we may need to address potential reimbursement from the state with our legislative bill? Are we going to come out where we need to be in the first?
I think the biggest concern in that area was if money had to be borrowed, the interest, maintenance, or if other assets had to be liquefied, the opportunity cost of, not having being interest on assets. And as a testimony to the fiscal position of the county, unlike other counties where sums to the tune of 35 to 75 million had to be borrowed with considerable interest charges, we did not have to do any of that.
Did we forfeit any interest earnings, though, on dollars that would have been available to us to accrue interest on?
Right now, our interest earnings is so little, it's not material. And they passed the budget in January. If this were to prolong, we have the potential of losing interest savings from the bond refinance.
That's what I was going to ask that. Are we now back on track with the bond refinance? And I think you projected that we might be able to save as much as $1 million.
Potentially $1 million, correct. At first glance, I'm saying we're back on track. What I'm hearing a little bit about is S&P is viewing the state now as 7 out of 10 years, a budget wasn't passed in time. I think we've proven ourselves that we are able to withstand those budget impasses, and I do not think that's going to impact us. I'm
So
hopeful that it's not going to impact us.
when do you think we'll be going to the bond market, or when would you suggest we're going to do that?
I
I
have,
mean, because that was a big deal. I mean, so you're saying now that they've released this funding, that at least you think that we can move forward with the,
correct. We're eligible for the refinancing May 1st.
okay.
I have it set up that Brad from PFM is supposed to call me the last week in January to get the numbers together on, based on the current market, what the savings may be, and then to come before the board and present it to get the go-ahead to move forward.
Okay. So you think actually the way the market will view us is that the fact that we've been able to manage through this crisis, without having to borrow, without having to cut services or eliminate services, that may view us favorably and,
Correct. They look very.
okay, despite what the state and their situation and downgrading and everything that's going on over there.
Yeah, my opinion of what they look at, one of the measures is management's ability to see what's coming and to react to it. And I think we proved in a big way that we could do that.
Okay. But we might not be in that position had they not at least passed this partial budget at the state. Is that,
Yes.
Because
Because there would be more uncertainty of our underlying
The
funding in the long
longer,
run.
the longer it went on, the more at risk.
Correct. Because our major funding source was at risk.
So your fundamentals would erode anyhow, so it would just be perception of the reality.
Correct. Any other comments or questions? So, Commissioners, put it for your consideration. You can, as you so choose, take action to formally lift the restrictions that were placed on, or if you prefer, have more time and put them on a future agenda.
I guess my question is there a recommendation from the management team, recommendation from finance or chief clerk?
I concur with what Dana said. I think it is appropriate, timely, and quite safe to be able to do so at this point.
I do as well, Harry. And with that, I want to thank everybody for doing what they did for the state budget debacle, and to be able to say that we got through this without having to borrow money, et cetera, is well done to everybody. So I'll entertain a motion to lift the spending freeze.
I'll make that motion to remove the restrictions that had been, that we had imposed previously.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment?
Just that you're going to continue to monitor the situation, and if we would need to revisit any of this, you'll apprise us of that.
I think by the end of the first quarter, we would want to come back and just give an update.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, everybody, and again, thank you folks for all your good work on this, good teamwork, and good cooperation.